Greetings, welcome to the Victoria Electric Vehicle Association on YouTube. Victoria EVA is a nonprofit advocacy group on a mission to help accelerate the shift to a sustainable energy future. Have you ever thought about all the delivery and shop vehicles you see on the streets of our cities? What impact they have on the price of the goods they move and the air we breathe? Well, today, Victoria Electric Vehicle Association has Frans Tjallingii from 7Gen, a leading provider of integrated commercial EV fleet solutions for North America. And I know I butchered your last name. Help me out here, Frans.
Frans Tjallingii.
What he said. Great. Before our presentation, can you briefly give us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, Frans Tjallingii again, co-founder and CEO at 7Gen. I'm originally from the Netherlands. I worked a long time in the maritime industry all over the world, and that got me here to Vancouver. After some time, I decided I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I did a startup in the blockchain and crypto space that I sold in 2018, and then decided I wanted to focus on impact, both investments as well as startups. So I helped co-found a company to recycle mining truck tires that I'm still involved with, and then co-founded 7Gen early 2020. So yeah, happily married with two kids that are leaving the house. One will be at UBC in September and was at the University of Toronto, and the other will be going to McMaster University. So
Right,
new phase of life.
right on. This is where it gets fun again. Okay. You have a presentation on 7Gen. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the name of the company, though? It's interesting philosophy that comes from that name.
Yeah, fully. So I think the name was there first, and then what are we going to do with the name? But it was really sort of embodied what I was thinking in 2019 when I was looking for the next thing to do. Is all about impact and thinking further ahead, right? Like to future generations. And the seven generation principle, a very sort of indigenous way of looking at the world as well as, and there's two interpretations. One is looking seven generations ahead and thinking with every decision that you make with those generations in mind, or being mindful of three generations back. So the ancestors and what they bring, current generation, and then three generations ahead. So I think either way, a very sort of meaningful lens that I wanted to also make sure that we incorporated in this company.
Terrific. Right on. Well, let's see your presentation then.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm really happy to be able to share here a bit about 7Gen, and we're in a wonderful new phase of growth, and yeah, just really excited about everything we're doing. So what we do is we try to address primarily the complexity and the cost of transition to EV. So when you move to EV, there's a whole bunch of new knowledge that comes to bear in making the choice for the right vehicle, for the right charging infrastructure, for how to manage it. Drivers need to drive differently, right? Like about 20% of the range of an EV is indicated by how it's being driven. So very big things. So what we wanted to do is really come up with a solution that makes it very easy for companies to go electric. We call it sort of EV as a service, but ultimately it's a leased solution that includes the vehicle and the charging infrastructure, and ultimately has our support in the whole chain. So we just recently closed a $48 million debt facility that allows us to really scale up, and so we're very excited about that. We announced that a few weeks ago, but it really sort of allows us to get to that next phase of growth. So yeah, what we find is that despite sort of the changes that are happening in the US and a lot of what's happening there, I think the long-term trend is clearly visible. All right, like we are going towards EV. EV is just a better mousetrap. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys know this, right? Like it's it's I mean, primarily two aspects to me. So one is the conversion efficiency. right? Like when you put energy into an EV, more than 90% of that gets into forward movement, whereas gas or diesel vehicles have a much lower conversion efficiency. That's one. And two, ultimately, EVs will be cheaper to manufacture, right? Like much less moving parts, about 300 to 400 versus 3 4,000. So we can see those prices slowly coming down. Improvement in battery density year over year, about 9%. So just for me, it's clear this will win. And in many jurisdictions, it's actually cheaper to operate. So especially in BC, you can save 40, 50% after provincial and federal incentives by moving to EV. So especially if you're in the sweet spot of being able to charge overnight and doing 100 to 150 kilometers per day, this makes a lot of financial sense. Coupled with that, we're getting better and better vehicles on the road, right? Like this is the GM BrightDrop, for example. We're now on version 3 of it, right? So the first version we had, still had some issues. Version 2 still had some issues, but we're now getting to where those issues are being ironed out, and we're getting a much better user experience. So what we do is we lease the vehicle, very much simple as a normal leasing company would. We're OEM agnostic, so we'll work with you to figure out what makes most sense. The charger, we provide you with a charging infrastructure, so we can do home charging, we can do a depot charging, and we can help you procure and install everything, but also manage everything going forward. So we provide a fleet management interface for our customers, and ultimately our goal is to implement a lot of AI tools to make it much easier for primarily small, medium enterprise to manage their fleet. Things like planning for maintenance and scheduling maintenance and things like that. And then ultimately we have a 24/7 customer service phone number that people can call when things are not going well. And what we do as well is when you lease a vehicle from us, we send you a check at the end of the year for carbon credits. Well, actually, it has to be the charging infrastructure that we have to manage for that. But yeah, that's a real helpful thing. So about 70 odd clients at the moment, some large corporates that are obviously well known. But yeah, most of our work is with small and medium enterprise, and I'll talk more about that. Right, so we work a lot with last mile delivery drivers, primarily courier and parcel, and that's sort of our core customer is a small fleet that works for a third party logistics company, like Uni or Intelcom or GLS or many of those kinds of people, and then we help them get into electric vehicles. We also do a lot of work with trades, so air conditioning, electricians, plumbers, laundry, pickup and delivery groups, and things like that. And then we're working on school buses as well, primarily in Quebec. So we have a team that's spread out over Vancouver, Montreal, and Ontario. And we also work in Nova Scotia and Alberta at the moment for deployments. So just an idea of what's the depot type work that we do. So this is obviously a larger install for DHL, large courier company, where we install a large number of overhead chargers that people can just pull down the plug to plug in, and then with a retractor it just pulls back up again so that it's out of the way. Very clean and neat install that we're doing, but this can obviously be a much smaller deployment. Most of what we do is level 2 chargers, but we also do a lot of we do level 3s as well. Primarily what we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the spend on the charging infrastructure for that vehicle that you've bought and for your operation. Because ultimately, the less money you spend on everything, the quicker you are actually going to make money by driving that EV. So that's our goal. Our goal is to help you make money with that EV. I already spoke a bit about our regional focus. We are looking into the US, but given everything that's happening, we've slowed down our US growth a bit. So we will get back to that. And we do see some traction still happening in a number of states. So how does it work? We help with the fleet assessment. So figure out, does it work for you? For which routes does it work? We help you plan the infrastructure. We bring in financing for you. We help you procure the equipment, both the vehicle and the charging infrastructure. And then we help you lever all the incentives that are available. And then we're working on this AI-enabled cost optimization and operations optimization tool so that we already have the sort of our platform up and running, works really well, and it can help you track and manage the fleet, but we're just working to build more and more functionality behind that. So our team, myself, I've already told you a bit about myself. So Ashley is our Chief Operating Officer. She's out of Portland, Oregon. So Ashley used to manage Schneider Electric's e-mobility group for North America. So a wonderful experience, has been in EV industry for about 16 years with Greenlots, and so that which was acquired by Shell and PlugShare and a number of other groups that she's just built this huge experience in EV. Ken, our new CFO, as of mid-January, used to be the CFO for Element Fleet here in Canada. So someone who really knows the leasing space and is really doing a great job for building out our back end. Shayna, one of my co-founders, who's really helped us to get to where we are in terms of a lot of the government relations, networking, and building out our business. John, our VP Sales out of Connecticut in the US. Also ex-Schneider, so one of the people that Ashley brought in. Just a huge experience in building out sales team and really also thinking through customer service within the charger space. Mark, again, one of the co-founders. So we have three co-founders, so myself, Shayna, and Mark. And Mark was with me in my first startup, and he runs basically our finance and risk group. That's all about how do we get our customers to get quick approvals on their credits, as well as how do we make our systems better, faster, cheaper. And then we have Gabriela, who runs our infrastructure team. Awesome electrical engineer that does a great job at managing our team and growing it. So that's sort of, our presentation. So, well, anyway, so most traction is on last mile delivery. We have our school bus program that we aim to get a bit more traction on, but it's not as slam dunk in terms of a business case. So it really depends on what government wants to do, as well as how fast school bus operators want to move. And then we have a number of pilots with larger trucks, so the Class 8 trucks in drayage as well as in regional distribution. Let's see. Yeah. So again, like a group that does that we're really sort of on the verge of larger scale and really focus on those small and medium enterprise groups and helping them make money. So that was it.
That was terrific. A couple of questions that arise from it for me.
Yeah.
Um, so you're working the small and medium-sized businesses so far. How
Yeah.
small do you go down to?
Any size. So we're really setting up our systems to be able to do, quick credit adjudication, quickly being able to deliver one vehicle, one charger, whatever the size of the project. So it's all about making sure we keep our overhead down, make sure that it's smooth and efficient, because that's how we can serve small customers.
Right. Do you work with municipal fleets, or is the funding that you have a contingent about not being to municipalities?
So we can definitely work with municipalities, and we do find for a small team like ours, it's really sometimes hard to work for a municipality. So I think it will depend on the need of the municipality and the interest, and then we can. There's no reason why we can't serve them. It's just that sometimes the sales cycles for us are harder.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
like we aim to deliver, like for a small medium enterprise customer, we aim to deliver sort of 3 to 5 weeks after signing the contract, right? So it's really that sort of fast cycle that works well with our current systems, and sort of a large procurement sometimes is harder for us to manage.
Right.
I mean, we can do it if there's sufficient interest, but so far we've not done much there.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about places like municipalities or even businesses who contract out the work that's done for them. Like they don't have the fleet, but they get the services of
Yeah,
the fleet.
yeah,
And my whole thing has been talking to them, going, "Hey, when you're coming up to the next contract, can you tell them in 2 to 5 years we'd like to see you having an EV offering,
yeah.
that sort of thing."
Yeah, it's
banks.
easy for a shipper or a someone who's a municipality or anyone to put in their offering. A preference will be given to an offerer who has a larger portion of EV in their fleet, right? Like so if that doesn't require them to make that decision to go for the EV, but it does put a bit of pressure on for operators to start thinking about EV. The
Right.
other thing we often do see is that the shipper puts the operator in contact with us, right? So that we've had it happen a number of times, and then we can help figure out, does it make sense? Will it make money? Is it convenient? Like, how will it work? And then the operator can choose. So I mean, listen, like ultimately, we believe in BC for especially, it's just going to be cheaper for you to drive an EV. Help us help you figure out if that's true or not for you, right? Like almost like for most use cases, if you're doing about that 100 to 150 kilometers and you can charge overnight, it's quite likely it's going to be cheaper for you to run that EV.
Right. And the thing I'll mention to people who may not know, uh, some people might say, well, 150 or 200 kilometers, that's not enough range. But, the average range in any urban setting is 35 kilometers an hour. And at some point, the vehicle is going to stop to do work. So an 8-hour shift should be pretty doable on
Yeah,
those
most of our
ranges.
last mile delivery companies are in that
Yeah.
space, right? Like, and it's not like so the BrightDrop, for example, has about a 400-kilometer range. So our one of our customers actually got 580 out of it, which is kind of astounding. Obviously,
Yeah.
that was for sport, right? But
Yeah.
still, right, like does show that if you drive a vehicle well, then you can get much more range out of it, at least about 20%.
Yeah.
So we actually do driver training, right? So we have a huge number of resources for drivers to help them drive these vehicles better, which is just really important because you are going to get more ROI if your drivers drive well. But I would say, even with the Ford Transit or with the which has the lowest range, there in winter you might get some range anxiety. But once you get into the Mercedes e-Sprinter or you get into the BrightDrop, they have more than enough range.
Terrific.
Right? So.
Um, is there anything else you'd want to bring up today?
Um, let's see. Yeah, I think, like there's such a pushback on EVs happening in the US right now. So, I think it does make sense to talk a bit about sort of how should we in Canada view this, right? Like I think I sort of touched upon it, but to me, the economy that makes this shift fastest or best will win out, right? Like because this is just a more efficient tool. So from an economic perspective, the moment that you're able to squeeze cost out of the supply chain by moving with a technology that's going to enable you to do that, yeah, you're going to win out. Like ultimately, this is still that where the vehicles are expensive, right? So it's all about how do you get to volume and how do you tap into supply chains that have that volume. That will be the challenge, not and the only way to do that is through adoption.
Yeah.
Right, so
And
that's the pitch I just wanted to make and make sure that people think about it, are able to think about it that way, or at least are able to ask the questions to allow them to get the answers to verify that themselves, right? But you can see it in Europe and you can see it in China and you can see it in even in a lot of the developing world where EV adoption is not driven by going green,
yeah.
right? Like EV adoption is driven by it being cheaper, right? Like so I think that's just something to really to emphasize and re-emphasize and saying if you're running a fleet, you should be seriously looking at this to be able to stay in business over the long term. In the short term, sure, but in the long term, you will be outcompeted if you're not running EVs.
Right. And as well, you're not dumping, a whole lot of toxins into everybody's neighborhoods as you're doing your business.
Fully. I
Um,
mean, and I mean, that's why I'm doing this business. On the other hand, we see that narrative is not popular with all people. And unfortunately, right? Like it should be part of the narrative, but hey, listen, like at this moment, I don't care what narrative you use as long as you move to EV.
yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, then it helps for me to repeat that it is cheaper. So it's in your best interest to do so.
The bottom line wins when you allow the economics to speak for themselves and
Fully.
not let preconceptions rule things out.
Yeah, fully.
Right on. Okay. Well, thanks so much for talking about 7 Gen today, Franz. For those of you watching today, please check out our over 100 videos on YouTube explaining the world of energy and electric vehicles. And please leave a like and tell your friends. Until next time, this is Victoria Electric Vehicle Association, challenging perceptions and providing context since 2011. Have a great day.